Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another Star Wars movie, or not movie, but TV show review. Even though, like, I covered just to prep for this, I covered all the, at least, maybe not all, I didn't do like Ewoks or like the Star Wars holiday special, but I covered, you know, all the films, Clone Wars, uh, uh, Rebels, even like the Resistance TV shows, and Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett as well. You can check all my thoughts on all that stuff up on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. So there's that. Now, I can finally, because I wrapped it up at least a week before this show started. So now, well, now that this season one, because it's supposed to be at least a rumor that there's a consideration for season two, which I don't think is necessary uh, for at least a couple of reasons. One being is they mentioned it's supposed to be a limited series, which relatively means like one and done kind of season, and there's not much you can tell beyond this point. Is at least not supposed to be more. Secondly, which I kind of wanted to do like a separate video discussing it, but a lot of people has been complaining about like there's too much stuff to watch and blah blah blah, and Disney Plus usually is like the people got a biggest issue with about this, where it seems like whoever's running, I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige is probably like one of the few running Disney Plus, but they pumping out just like because Miss Marvel and Kenobi came out in the same week. You can't pump out so much new content where other streaming services doing like new stuff as well, and it's like it's too much going around, and I don't think people uh, can give these shows the proper respect of digesting them a significant time and let it sit so that way we can enjoy and watch a couple of times more. Because the way I see it, if you got Kenobi series coming out, which it kind of should have came out around May the 4th, well, if you have this coming out around that time, and then have Miss Marvel come out the second part of the year, you give both of these guys enough time to let it marinate into the zeitgeist before any other new content comes out in the following year. Because you have this going back to back, because it seems like, I get it, it's money, but it's like, we're not going to forget you guys if you leave things be for a minute. This is my opinion. It's like, let Miss Marvel have his day in the sun by itself, because before too long we got Armor Wars introducing like Riri Williams eventually, and we got like Rhodey dealing with his stuff in that show, and it's like we'll be just like people be saying like we just wrapped up with like Miss Marvel, now we gotta like get ready for like Armor Wars and stuff like that, and it's like just let them marinate a bit. Don't keep trucking out new stuff after the last one just wrapped up a few weeks ago. Even though you got like a set schedule planned for these different release dates, set some time for a gap. Or at least for the TV shows. Set some time out for a gap so people can digest the Loki series for a little while. Let us digest Kenobi series for a little while. To have people with all these review shows and talking about and discussing it for weeks on end, and then later in the year, got a new thing coming out, because that's the thing with like She-Hulk. Nobody asked for a She-Hulk trailer because we still like was gearing up for Miss Marvel and Kenobi series, but then I don't know, it's something behind the scenes from what I heard that people was worried about, people, at least somebody got wind like, hey, like people been wondering what's going on with the Shield. Nobody was. We know Shield is not coming out for a good while, but somebody rushed out, and that's why people have like, even I had like some issues with like the certain shots of the CGI with the She-Hulk, and it's like you rushing out, and nobody asked for this. We understood it's gonna be a while before Shield comes out. You don't need to give us like a trailer that's relatively not finished yet, because our first Shield trailer should have come out maybe a couple of weeks after Miss Marvel wrapped up, and by that time the CGI will probably look a little bit better. But that's just my opinion. I'm just a side tangent on that, because like Disney Plus need to just ease up a little bit with the content. You got like a plethora of stuff people want to enjoy, like a lot of Disney stuff, like some DuckTales and Chip and Dale and like X-Men, the '90s X-Men show, and all this other stuff that like so much stuff that's on Disney Plus. People want to like invest time in a little bit before any new content out that will permeate the zeitgeist for a couple of months. Ease up a bit. Just calm down. We're not going to forget about you if you give these new original content a break in between. Anywho, Kenobi series. I, in general, love it. Now, if you watch my YouTube tier list of all the Star Wars stuff from like movies and TV that I've seen and how I would rank them, check that out on my YouTube channel as well. But because at that time Kenobi series didn't come out yet, and I put it on S tier level because like I initially thought, oh, Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, they can't do no wrong. They are great actors, and it's like, okay, this is gonna be like S tier right off the bat. There's no question. Rematch between Vader and Obi Wan. There's nothing wrong with that, and it wasn't nothing wrong with those. You got like right off the bat, Obi Wan living in secret. This is like 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith. The Empire is like encompassing like most of the galaxy at this point. Obi Wan living in a recluse state. Still trying to commune with Qui-Gon Jinn, but no success. He's not. He's like not necessarily cutting himself off from the Force, but it's just like it's kind of like Sher Junda from the Fallen Order, where she is relatively cutting herself off from the Force to a certain extent because the trauma of like you have like your entire, like speaking as like a black man, you had like nearly your entire culture and way of life nearly eradicated to the point of you almost going extinct. I mean, like Native Americans could speak on this as well. It's like and Jewish people. It's like anybody from a marginalized group who had their culture pretty much like uprooted or nearly eradicated by another group of people, and it's like you can sympathize with Obi-Wan as how like you feel like you lost, and like he's living recluse but still trying to do the one final duty he can do, which is watch over Anakin's son, because he well, at least roughly in that mindset, they don't really consider Leia, but they figured the boy would be the one that could possibly, coming from the same stock, can possibly, with proper training later on, can match up and hopefully take down this empire, Anakin included. But you had this interaction with Owen, uh, where it's like Obi Wan is like, hey, like this boy needs to be trained. He's not gonna be a little boy forever. Eventually he needs to be properly trained, and Owen's just like cuts real deep, like you trained his father, and it's like, of course, because if you watch my Attack of the Clones review, where Owens was a little younger, and him and Beru was early in their relationship, you know he got to know Anakin a little bit and consider him family, but I'm trying to fix up my hair. What the Jedi Order did to him, and like what caused him to like feel like he abandoned his mother and only come at the last minute where she's like literally on her deathbed, dead by the Tuscans. Obviously, like most of them like laid a lot of stuff in combination laid the groundwork to him falling to the dark side. And it's like I'm this boy's guardian. I'm his parent. And I've refused to let this boy go down the same path that your order put his father in. And it's like, for all intents and purposes, like, you're just responsible. And so, like, you can't have any kind of interaction with the boy. He refused to have Obi-Wan anywhere near the kid. Don't leave any gifts. I don't want this kid anywhere near you. Then you got the you get the Night Sisters and brothers, but there's one in particular, the third sister, Reva. Now I want to put this out there right off the bat, and hash this out while we're on the subject. Now there's been like a lot of racist shit, and it's almost always Star Wars related when it comes to like racist, ignorant people coming after people of color involved in Star Wars. Now, whether it being like, well, it's mostly because like, oh, it's people of color. It can't always be that, but it is focused on that because the Reva character isn't written very good. I'll get to that in a second. But because it was, like just like with like the Rose character and the Finn character, just because at certain points where they're not written very good, ignorant people want to focus on their color being the reason why it wasn't very good and how stupid that is, and causing like the Rose character, like the actress who played Rose in like the Last Jedi, getting off of social media entirely because all the harsh things she's been receiving. And it's like the Star Wars, I won't even call them Star Wars fans, because like you have to have Ewan McGregor post on social media how ignorant you guys have been. At least though it's not even considering, like, as he pointed out, you're not Star Wars fans, because true Star Wars fans will be welcoming of everybody. You're not a Star Wars fan at all to the eyes of true Star Wars fans. You're ignorant, racist assholes that we don't want you in our group. Sorry, but if you're not like warm and inviting and inclusive and understanding, we don't want any part of you in our fandom. Point blank, period. And that's, yeah. So, like, it's like, it's wrong. Stop it. We don't want any part of that. And it's a shame that we have to explain that. especially in this day and age, especially after the situation with in 2020 during uh, uh, George Floyd's death and all this racial awakening that the world has experienced, should be more inclined to not be that. Anyway, now aside from that, the Reva character, I am not a fan of, mostly because I feel like she was being such a tryhard. Now I thought it was just maybe like the pilot situation. Maybe we'll build up on her through the course of the 6 episode run. But no. It just seems like, compared to like Tarkin or even Admiral Thrawn, to where like these guys leave a presence. Where it's like it's like showing a difference between being a villain and then trying to be a villain. And that is just like the X factor that the Reva character is missing. Like you cut off like a random person's hand, and it's like, I'm such a badass. I'm maiming people in front of everybody. Y'all gonna tell me what I need to do because I'm a third sister. Nah. And it's like, oh my God. It's like, why? It's like your presence alone should warrant the respect that or fear that you're trying to gain from these people. But you're showing weakness by trying to appear threatening. But she's hunting down Jedi. She had a mad hard on looking for Obi Wan Kenobi specifically. But Owen's being questioned while amongst the crowd. For some reason he got singled out. But he inadvertently protects Obi-Wan's secret. But as he mentions to Obi-Wan, like, I didn't do it for you. Clearly, it's like, probably like, in a way, he did it for the memory of Anakin. Because I think it was like, the kind of like stepbrothers, I think. That's how they, yeah. Because his father married, Smee Skywalker. So making, them like stepbrothers. I guess I kind of wish, I'm pretty sure maybe there's a deleted scene in Attack of the Clones, but it would be cool. Maybe it's in a comic, but cool, like a little moment where Owen and Anakin had like a moment with each other, getting to know each other, and like, which giving Owen a memory of Anakin to hold on to, like a good memory to hold on to remember what he was as a person. And doing that good deed, not for Obi-Wan's benefit, but the memory of Anakin for his benefit. But then you get, which it did, the show's doing kudos for Leia, but well, I'll get to it in a second, but you get a moment where you finally get to see like Alderaan, and like Alderaan looks beautiful, probably like the best planet I ever seen out of all the planets we've seen in the Star Wars franchise. I think what during the Clone Wars, what the Mandalorian planet looked like, that Coruscant and Alderaan is probably like the three most beautifulest planets in the Star Wars galaxy. But I think Alderaan probably remained number one probably for such a long time. But it's like a pity. It leaves like a dread in the pit of your stomach, knowing like 10 years later down the line what the ultimate fate of this planet would be, being used as like an example for the rest of the galaxy. And all the Alderaanians who were left stranded, who wasn't home at that time when the planet blew up, like the the uh, fighter for the Rebel Alliance, the woman from the Mandalorian series. I forgot her name, but she was from Alderaan. So her and Leia, I'm pretty sure there's, you know, maybe a dozen more people who weren't there at the time when it blew up. It was pretty much like refugees. Uh, it's just like a shame knowing what will ultimately be the fate of this planet. And it's like I'm just glad we get to see it in its full glory. And you see like uh, I forgot his first name, but like uh, 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 King, not King, but President or something like that, Organa, Mr. Organa, and his wife, Bail Organa. You see Bail Organa and his wife, and you see like, okay, you only get a little bit of his wife, and it's just really like a speaking role. And I'm pretty sure that's the same woman from at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Not 100% on that, but you get to see like, you know, who this person is. That is a good thing. But you get to see Leia, very adventurous, very outspoken. You can see she got like a little twinge of the Force because she used that as part of like maxing out her intuition and reading people, whereas like this shitty cousin of hers or step cousin or whatever was like, oh, you're not really an Organa. And like, you know, I like this moment when Leia just obviously using her Force powers, and you get to see like C-3PO in the background. I thought that was a nice little touch because Bail kind of took C-3PO in his charge to look after. Well, I think both. You don't see R2, but I'm pretty sure both came with the Bail Organa to like as like nursemaids and what have you. But this little shitty cousin, you know, she put in his place, like, you know, yeah, like telling about himself and like what his fears are and everything like that. You think acting this way will make him love you more, or you feel respected, and it's like that was like a badass move. But she ended up getting kidnapped by these pirates who was hired by Riva because one of the leaders is, I guess, part of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Never knew that off the bat because I'm not a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. I'm pretty sure I heard a song or two from like a movie or something, but I'm not a fan, so I didn't figure that out right away until like I saw other people point that out. But he kidnaps Leia. So Bail contacts Obi Wan, who he knows personally, who's a Jedi he knows personally that's not only still alive, but hasn't gone to the dark side, or who he trusts more to handle this. Who he trusts more to handle this particular situation, especially knowing who this child is. And of course, Obi-Wan was hesitant, but ultimately he agrees to, like, you know, pick up his saber and go off Tatooine, even though he's want to stick to his guns and be charged in looking after the boy as agreed upon, as he was agreed upon to look after the daughter. But, you know, he wanted to make sure that, because he's working behind the scenes on trying to help build up the Rebel Alliance to take down the Empire, but he wants to still appear to be like a neutral party on the surface. So him involving himself would break that. So Obi-Wan tracks down Leia. He bumps into Camille Nanjiani once again, having all these muscles, not doing much with them, pretending to be a Jedi, but he's not. but he's trying to like smuggle people off the planet to safety and everything like that for the right price. For the right price. Welcome, stranger. Um, uh, but he finds Leia, and it's like you see this funny little interaction between the two, where she used that little Jedi intuition on uh, Kenobi, and he is asked like, "How old are you?" I'm 10. It's like it's just funny interactions. It's like he's taken aback by her just reading people just so effortlessly, and just like the way she talks, obviously very spunky kind of thing. And I think like Star Wars is like notorious with this lone wolf cub thing they got going on. It was great with Mando and Baby Yoda, but it's and then like with Logan and X-23, but it's like I think a lot of stuff is hammering that idea over and over. Is eventually that's going to be getting kind of tiresome. But uh, Leia, uh, uh, while trying to escape the third sister, who ends up killing one of the guys you see a lot, the Grand Inquisitor, for getting his title. The Grand Inquisitor, who you see in a lot during like uh, Rebels, and it's like okay, and then she ends up supposedly killing him. Why was that required? Because you don't need him to fake a death. That he ultimately comes back at the end of at the end of the season, but it's like, why was that there in the first place? That wasn't really required. But I guess you needed something Reva to do, but that part was confusing as hell. Uh, but before we get to that point, there was like an awesome moment between Obi and uh, Leia, to where you see this like moment he shares between each other, where it's like he like because she gets Leia gets an inkling that Obi Wan knew his parents, knew her parents, and he just looks at her and it's like he starts like reminiscing about Padme. It's like it's like you see a lot, like I see a lot of your mother in you, and it's like he's like you remind me of somebody like I do very well, and it choked a lot of people up. Where he's just like, because that's playing a scene very well. That's like a perfect example of letting seeding certain dialogue that you should already know that you don't need to hash out or have it spelled out for you. You just know, and it speaks volumes. Which is one of those examples of you have to see the other films before you see this TV show to understand the context. I think it's one of those moments where it's kind of like a requirement. It wouldn't make no sense otherwise. Or at least you wouldn't understand the subtext otherwise. But Reva later on catches up with Obi-Wan and like starts seeing like Anakin's alive, Obi-Wan. And you see like a little Ewan McGregor's doing like a fantastic job. And just like Lennox, when a camera's on him, he lets those emotions, do their job on his face. And it's like the other shock and horror, knowing that he thought his apprentice died on Mustafar, but no, he's alive. And but he managed to make it off the planet. But they had to make detours to find this person to pick them up to take them directly to Alderaan, because they had to make side quests, obviously, instead of going directly to Alderaan, because once again, don't want to make it seem like Bail Organa is breaking neutrality. But they go to this other planet to meet up with a person who is working as one like an imperial person, and but they don't know that yet. All the while, Obi-Wan's having like visions. Clearly, he's going through some stuff. Obviously, once again, I'll break down what I had expected from this show at the end of me covering this. But you see, like, images of Anakin in the distance. Clearly, he's hallucinating. But they get in a ride and they get stopped by like a checkpoint with stormtroopers, and of course Obi-Wan has to eventually fight his way out. And you get a little bit of insight of Obi-Wan's past a bit, because he mentions because a lot of younglings got taken away from their families and at a young age, and he barely remembers his family, but he do recall having a brother. I'm pretty sure he named him, but I don't think so. But it's like that was one of the detriments that befell Anakin. It's like, because the staunch religious practice of the Jedi being taken away for such a young age, away from their families, led to like Anakin resenting them, and like, because he wasn't there when his mother needed him. If he was there, or at least allowed interactions or emotional connections, the fate of the Jedi wouldn't come crumbling down. So they run to this female Imperial person who was helping other stranded Jedi and other people under this secret underground railroad kind of situation. But then you get like the Grand Inquisitor and other Knight brothers and sisters coming with Vader, as Vader is just marching along down the street, and just knowing Obi-Wan is nearby, but trying to draw him out. And this is like, you think like Rogue One was like a terrifying sight with Vader? This takes it to another level, where he's just using the Force, yanking random people out of their homes, killing them in the streets, and force choking them, snaps a teenager's neck, just random. It's like what the fuck? I was like, whoa, this dude was a fucking monster. And it's like, you forget this is the same little boy who loves pod racing. This is the same kid who's just force choking random people in the street and killing them just outright. Holy shit. I was just, when I was watching this, it was like 2 a.m. I was watching this, and I'm like, whoa, god damn. But eventually Vader tracks them, Obi-Wan, down, and he had this little fight sequence. And of course, it's been a minute since Obi-Wan had any kind of like, practice with using the Force, because he's been cutting himself off. He hasn't been practicing with a saber. He's pretty much, I'm pretty sure it's like going off of muscle memory for the most part, but he gets his butt handed to him. And then Vader, it's still a cool ass fucking moment, where it's like Vader, he puts down some like coal or something like that's nearby, some mining area. He lays, he pulls down some coal, lays on the ground, ignited with the saber, ignites a fire, and then yanks Obi-Wan, a little bit into the fire, and it's like just sheer revenge. It's like petty, just straight up petty revenge against Obi-Wan. It's like you left me in the fire to burn, I'm return the fucking favor. And he's just like, you hear Obi-Wan screaming. It was rough. Like, oh my god. He's like dragging him slowly through that fire. And he's just, you hear Obi-Wan just burning, screaming like as he's burning a little bit. But he Vader cuts off the fire. It's like, that's just only a taste of what I have in store for you. and of course, like the secret rebel lady, I forgot her name, and her little service droid thing comes rescue him by igniting another fire, and which a lot of people complain about, like, okay, why didn't Vader, while they're getting away with Obi Wan, why didn't Vader just either walk around or caught the fire again? Because he can easily have done that. Because he did it just seconds before. Uh, Most people are rationalizing maybe because he found him once, he can find him again. But now he's a little bit more closer, can easily like tail him because now he kind of like, I guess, like in tuned in a way, I guess, to where it's like, because you know at first, like, Obi Wan, like, so like in the ether, we couldn't really pinpoint. But now it's like, oh, I'm a little more closer to you now, and like, oh, I know you're here, so I can easily, like, not easily, but easier than before, can find you. So I'm not in any rush. Like, I waited 10 years to find you. Like, I can wait a few days more. I can wait a few hours more. Uh, but then they go off to uh, but of course, like, Reba finds Leia and takes her to like this uh, water rainy planet uh, where she's interrogating Leia. But then, uh, of course, you get this little moment with, like, yeah, Obi Wan is in a bapta tank, along with, at the same time, in parallel, uh, Anakin is in a bapta tank, and they both, like, it seems like they just like recalling their history and everything like that. It's like memories kind of flooding back. You meet, like, Ice Cube Jr., who's like, like a leader upon this, like, group of refugees trying to find a way home, because I'm pretty sure most of them are, like, suspected of being force sensitive or something like that or the other. But they have to find Leia. So uh, uh, Kenobi goes off to find Leia, because since her cover ain't blown, the Lady Rebel, who's pretending to be an Imperial. Well, she was an Imperial until, like, she got a change of heart, knowing the atrocities uh, the Empire is doing against innocent people. Uh, you see, like, Obi-Wan infiltrating the facility, and you see all these people encased in, like, amber prisons, where obviously they're more than likely already dead, but they're being preserved for some reason. And I think that's, like, seeding. Not sure if they're previously Jedi or just people of interest, but if there are people that used to be Jedi and they're dead, and they be encased in amber, maybe they're seeding the early works of using, like, their DNA to, like, make future Snokes or clones of, or, like, clone bodies for the Emperor to, like, transfer his essence into, kind of thing that you see in the sequel trilogy that his ultimate plan was. But people were, like, going hard trying to figure out who are these people, because I don't recognize any of them. Maybe one of them was pointed out to be in, like, Clone Wars, that Ahsoka met up in one episode. But by and large, don't recognize any of these people. But some people suspect at least one of them had to be, like, Mace Windu being preserved, kind of thing. But people want Sam Jackson to come back as Mace Windu in some capacity, and Sam also wanted to come back. He stressed that to Bryce Dallas Howard, who done a few episodes of Mandalorian, great episodes. So it's like, I think a couple of episodes of Book of Boba Fett too, or at least one episode, I should say. So she can easily pull this off. But Obi-Wan rescues Leia, takes off with like the uh, secret rebel fighter, and uh, takes off. But now, like, Vader and the others are on the hunt, following these guys, hammering them with laser fire. But Obi-Wan comes up with the idea, okay, no, it did not right away. Like, they go back to the hideout, but like, uh, Reva put a tracker on Leia's little toy droid thing, and so they track them down, and you come to understanding, which is kind of obvious, halfway through, at least after the second episode of the series, you kind of understood, like, yeah, Reva was one of the younglings during Order 66 that was attacked by Anakin Skywalker. She somehow managed to survive, even though she got uh, cut by him, but managed to hang on. Became eventually uh, 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 a third sister, but she holding a grudge against him because she killed the only family she knew of. So she figures, like, the only way to get to him is by finding Obi-Wan to draw Vader out. But you had other opportunities to be alone with Vader that you did not seize the moment to, like, attack. Maybe because he was already at full strength, and maybe it would have been played better if, like, she was using Obi-Wan to, like, force a fight between the two, tire Vader out so she can come in and, like, give her a fair opportunity to, like, seize the killing blow. Maybe that would have been better to play out. Maybe that, I'm speculating, maybe that's what she was hoping for, but no, it didn't play out that way. But it didn't written to be played out that way either, which probably would have worked so much better. But Vader comes down, and, like, of course, like, during the on-scene fight, when, like, these when the Empire, at least a squad of stormtroopers, come in and lay fire, and you lose, like, the lady who was helping the Underground Railroad for Jedi. She and her droid partner fell in battle, which is sad, but I'm also glad on the outside of the show, because so many of these Star Wars shows, I feel like they're just backdoor pilot projects for other side characters that happen to be good in a particular show. We don't need everybody and their mom to have, spin-off shows off of a good show. Just like with, like the Andor series. I'm not looking forward to that. Other people are. Good. Kudos to you. But it's like, Rogue One is supposed to be a run and done kind of story. We don't need, like, a prequel to that, because he was, like, a decent character in that, because he wasn't supposed to be clinging on to characters that wasn't going to last long, because they're supposed to have died getting these plans. So that's it. We don't care beyond that, which is shitty to say, but that's the truth. And it's like saying with Mandalorian, with that female fighter that working with Mando in season 1. It's like, she's a cool character. We don't need backdoor pilots because she was good as a supporting role. We don't need a show dedicated to her. It's just with Book of Boba Fett, reason why that relatively failed, because we didn't care beyond Boba Fett being just a cool looking character. He's good as a supporting character and nothing more. Like, maybe in different circumstances, like, the show could have benefited him being, like, taking up the helm, but it's like, he just got. I explained this in the Book of Boba Fett TV series in my review of that, but it's just, we don't need everybody to have side spin-off shows. That's why I enjoy this being a limited series. We don't need, like, the bartender of Tatooine to have his own show. We don't care. Ease up on the new original content. But you see this awesome display of power with Vader coming in and just thinking, like, they're about to everybody's about to take off on the ship, and Vader pulling this sucker down. Not that dissimilar to Starkiller in like the Force Unleashed video games, or at least that trailer when he pulling that ship down. He, strong as he is, had to use both hands and concentrate of pulling that sucker down from the sky. That Star Destroyer down from the sky. Vader, even though it was a smaller ship by comparison, he still did it with one fucking hand and yanked that sucker from the sky, and then just tear open the side of the ship, even though it was a decoy, and like for some reason he couldn't see like the other ship behind that one, and it's already taken off, and he couldn't just pull that right down. He did it once, he couldn't do it again. I don't know. That was bad writing. Even though it was cool, but bad writing at the same time. Because it wouldn't make no sense why he could not do the exact same thing, and the ship is not that far. But then Reva comes in, tried to sneak attack Vader, but Vader, like I said, it could have played so much better if she organized a fight between Obi-Wan and Vader, tire Vader out before she tried to comes in to take on Vader. Because Vader didn't expend all that much energy to do what he did. And she thinking she can sneak attack him. And of course, he slices her up again. Like, it's like people pointing out like Qui-Gon Jinn gets stabbed in the belly once, dies, but everybody else somehow still survives after getting stabbed in the gut once. And it makes no sense why Qui-Gon Jinn couldn't stick around if everybody else gets stabbed in the stomach and somehow survives. But maybe because their revenge is so much stronger, their need for revenge is so much stronger, it keeps them alive to get passed up. But still stupid. But then you see the Grand Inquisitor comes back, and of course Vader knew she was that youngling that survived Order 66, and he kept her around because she was just a tool that still acted out his extension of him. He still murdered on my whim as I requested. You were a tool and you did your job up to this point. Then she finds a communication device left by Obi-Wan with like a broken message from Bail Organa. So she goes to Tatooine to try to like figure out like, oh, this is Vader's secret son. I kill him, Vader will have to come back for a rematch or something, or at least tear him up in some kind of way. She wants to get at Vader as much as possible, even if it has to be by exacting revenge off of somebody that's an extension of him. But then Obi-Wan figures, okay, I have to go off on a lone ship, knowing Vader, because these two know each other so well. They know how to outplan each other. I thought that was a good parallel between the two, because you get flashbacks between these two practicing saber fighting and like knowing these two's different outlooks on how to handle fighting, and they have to outplan each other and outwit each other at the same time as physically fighting with each other. So Obi-Wan knew Anakin enough to know he will go after an opponent like a dog with a bone, despite what anybody else will say. So he goes off on a separate ship, lone ship, and Vader, of course, go after him, leave everybody else alone. And he goes on this rocky planet. Vader goes off on a single ship, and they duke it out. Awesome fight between these two. Of course, Vader gets the upper hand, and like you miss the opportunity where Vader gets the high ground and does not say it back to Kenobi. I was like, I have the high ground now, Obi-Wan, or something to that effect. And then like sending chunks of rock into the pit where he has Obi Wan trapped, and of course you see like Obi Wan like using the Force to like nearly escape being crushed, and then him regaining some sense of like you know overcoming any issues, which is kind of fairly fast, but he gets out of that trap and attacks Vader again with renewed vigor, and like it's an awesome display of power. And he does his little stance. It's like, that iconic saber stance move. Uh, I forgot what it's called, but it's pretty much like a defensive stand. And you see him overpowering Vader, and it's like you never see this from a Jedi, but using the back hilt of the saber and smashing the breastplate of Vader, and you see Vader's labor breathing and everything like that, and comes back with a slash on his helmet, and it's kind of it like runs parallel to what you see in Rebels when Ahsoka years later fight up against Vader, and you see that the cracked helmet, and you see Anakin's face peeking out, and it's like awesome cinematography and audio where you hear like Hayden Christensen's voice going in and out between James Earl Jones' voice, and it's so cool and like eerie, and like it fills you with dread and ominous. It's like, and it's like the dialogue between him and Obi-Wan really made this episode. It's probably like my favorite episode. Like the pilot's probably like my second favorite episode. Well, I think like first two episodes and this last one's like a lot more. Well, I think the third. Well, there's good points in all the episodes, but this one is like my favorite out of all of them. Where, more specifically, this dialogue between Kenobi and Anakin, where Kenobi, in tearful, just sorrow and regret, can just say, cause he understood his mistakes, what led Anakin to be like this, and he's like, "I'm sorry, Anakin. I'm sorry, like for everything." He get to say he get to apologize that he didn't, at least somewhat do in the Revenge of the Sith, but he can finally express what more to that, and then, in my opinion, it's kind of sort of Anakin, and maybe some sense of lifting the burden off of Kenobi's shoulders in some level of decency, where obviously not fully, but it's just like you hear him saying like, "You didn't fail Anakin Skywalker. You didn't kill you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did." And it's just like his voice going in and out like that. That was such another great quote from the Star Wars franchise. It's like just somewhat easing the burden off of Kenobi's shoulders just a little bit. Clearly he's meaning like you wasn't responsible for that. I wanted to kill Anakin Skywalker. I wanted to erase that part of me. I am Darth Vader now. And Kenobi resigned himself that, well, my best friend is dead. So, goodbye, Darth. And of course, leaving. Of course, because Vader had to come back later in the future. But it's like you're leaving your opponent alive, knowing he's gonna come back and wreak more havoc. But story. But Reva trying to you see an awesome display from Beru and Owen, because on normal circumstances they are no match for a Jedi of any level, but because Reva is wounded but still like going off of sheer vengeance, as she's trying to track down the boy, and they holding their own, trying to fight off against, which is awesome display because you don't see Baru doing much of anything in the Star Wars franchise, but they stall her to give her enough time for Luke to go run off, because you don't see Owen. They played the show like you'll see Owen a lot in all these episodes, but no, you only see him in the first episode and the last episode, which is like a crying shame, because you kind of misled everybody in a lot of ways, that being one of them. So Luke running in the middle of the rocky terrain, he falls down, goes unconscious, and expecting to kill this kid, but she doesn't want. She remembers what Anakin did, and she refused to. She couldn't do what she couldn't be the monster that he was, so she refused to kill him and brought him back. And of course, Obi Wan shows up very quickly, and like tells Reva she done the right thing, and this will make you different from him. And Leia's back with her parents, and you see this awesome moment between her and Obi-Wan, and he tells her that you have both all the best qualities from both your parents, and they were like the best friends I ever known. And like this encourages Leia to be more involved in like the political part of her family's job, which will lead to what she will become later in the future. And then you see a moment between Owen and Obi-Wan, and a nice little moment where Owen's like, "You want to meet the kid?" And like Obi-Wan walks over, bringing that toy that you'll see in in A New Hope, where Luke plays with, because he loves being a pilot, and I thought you would never get this, because I wanted this to be Obi-Wan's first line of the show, but as long as I got it, I'm happy. And they played it so well, because he just walks over to meet Luke, and he says, "Hello there." And I was like, yes! He said, and I see on Twitter, everybody's going ballistic. He said the thing! He said the thing! I was like, he said the thing! He said the thing! And I was so happy. It makes me happy. That's why, like, I don't hate the show. There is issues with the writing here and there, but, like, that part made me warm inside. But then Obi-Wan goes off to go to his later secluded place that you'll see in A New Hope, and then he finally meets his mentor, Qui-Gon Jinn, as a Force Ghost. And I kind of expect a little bit more dialogue between him and while you got Liam Neeson there, it's like I kind of expect a little bit more dialogue between the two, but that's fine as long as we got it. And it's like, yes, Liam Neeson. But yeah, the show ends that way, and of course teaches him. We know he later will learn how to be a Force Ghost whenever he passes away, so he can always be there for Luke down the line. But he'll become more powerful than Vader will realize, as you know. But yeah, that was the show. That perfect. If I got a chance, because I put this over the S tier level, because I expect it to be like so good. It is good, but not so good, because certain writing issues. If I had a chance, I will put it down to A level tier, because it's still relatively good. But the thing I wish they would have corrected on, because this is supposed to be like a a show that's supposed to be dedicated. Because yeah, people complain about Book of Boba Fett because he's just like on this singular planet and not traversing other areas and fighting other people and blah blah blah. This one, he definitely needs to be on the same planet because he's in charge of watching over this kid. But at the same time, because that's what they kind of like led us to believe, that he's obviously going through PTSD. He could have easily explored that with Obi Wan Kenobi, having his whole entire family and culture, everything he knew, nearly eradicated to near extinction, and him having to be in hiding for the bulk of his life until Luke grows up so he can teach him the ways of the Force so he can take down the Empire. But we didn't get none of that. I mean, you kind of get that, but it wasn't lean into it because there's so much you can explore with, because you see a moment with Obi-Wan hallucinating Anakin Skywalker. You can lean into that. He's having a mental breakdown. Him reminiscing about Padme, one of his closest friends. It's like, everything he knew throughout the Clone Wars, what he's been through, all that could have easily been explored. The Reva character, as I mentioned before, she's a try-hard, and the actress did the job which was required of her. I'm not knocking her for that. It's just the way the character was written I have issues with. And it's like, you have so much villains to ape off of to show you what a villain needs to be like in these shows. But for some reason, you have like a little kid pretending to be like a little kid playing cops and robbers, and like a little kid trying to pretend what a robber is supposed to be like. And that's what the Reva character is acting like she's pretending to be like a evil Jedi. I didn't care for that. And the Leia stuff, that could have been, instead of having it to be the bulk of the entire season, that could have been played like the Clone Wars, where you have these little mini arcs with these characters, where it's not dragging out the entire show, but focus on 2 or 3 episodes. Leia stuff is cool where you can explore, because you don't get enough time for people to focus on Leia and not just Luke. That is cool, but focusing on 2 episodes. I think Leia stuff is a 2 episode worthy exploration, where you get a moment between Obi-Wan and Leia, and why Leia eventually names her son after Ben because of this close relationship she had with Kenobi, and also in New Hope, where she seek out Obi-Wan for help, because not only, of course, they have to avoid certain twists or at least screw ups within the timeline for the original trilogy, because if you remember in A New Hope, she says on a hologram, "You helped my father during the Clone Wars." But of course, she cannot mention, like, "I met you as a little girl, so you gotta help me now." You can't have that. So you gotta take it easy with that kind of stuff. But those are like my issues overall. But it's like, you gotta, I don't think you can do much in a season 2. I don't think a season 2 is necessary. But they should have focused the show on just, you got to get him off the planet in some way so him and Vader can have a rematch. But you can still do the stuff, but like the Leia thing, 2 episode worthy, then get her back at her home, and then have like the rest of it with like, Obi-Wan all the while trying to help this Imperial, trying to help these rebel or at least refugees, and all the while him trying to get over what happened in the past and all that stuff. That could have been just as better, if not better. But you know, those are my thoughts on like the Kenobi series. I still enjoy it. Besides the stuff that I mentioned, this like the cons out of the pros. Beyond that, it's still a good show. Just does not need a season two. You kind of, I don't want to say blew your wad, but it's like, what else can you tell beyond this point? And like him, learning the ways of trying to become a Force ghost, it's probably gonna be worthy of maybe an episode or two, but it's like not needed. And it's like you only got Liam Neeson for like a little bit amount of time, but with a season two, you're gonna have to expect him to be there for at least half of the season. But you can't afford Liam Neeson for that long. So a season two isn't required. That's why I feel personally. But anyway, what are your thoughts on the Kenobi series? What was your issues? What was your pros? And how would you fix this if there is anything to fix in your opinion? But anyway, I will see you guys possibly later on. I might get back into more FF7 remake. So yeah, and I'm gonna put this along with my other Star Wars reviews that I have on the channel that you can check out my full thoughts on the other movies and the other TV shows. So anyway, I will see you guys later. Take care. Leave a like and subscribe for more future content like this down the line. And I'll see you all later. Peace. And